Welcome to the Las Vegas Grand Prix as Formula One enters the final triple header of the season. The streets of Las Vegas will host their second race before we head to Qatar and then to Abu Dhabi for the season finale. But it's Vegas that we're going to focus on tonight. My name is Emily Selleck. I'm a senior reporter at Motorsport, and I'm joined here by Ben Hunt, Autosport's chief motorsport writer.
Thank you.
And Mark Mann-Bryans, Autosport's business correspondent. We're here at the Bellagio Fountain Club. Not a terrible view behind us. How are we feeling tonight?
Yeah, cold.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's very good. It's very cold, but it's very good. It's mega here, isn't it? We're back for the second year, but yeah, it's going to be good fun.
Yeah, it's fabulous to be here in Vegas. Second year for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Absolutely stunning venue. Everyone watching at home wants to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. It's your first time here, Mark?
It is.
How are we feeling?
Really good. I mean, this is pretty impressive, isn't it? But yeah, it's all part of the show, isn't it? That's what this town's about. It's about putting on a show. F1 is similar. It proved last year, 99 overtakes in one Grand Prix. We hope for the same this weekend. There's a lot on the line, on and off track, I think, for Formula One here this weekend.
And how's the feeling in the paddock on day one?
I think there's quite a positive vibe. Lots of changes have been made from last year to this year. You know, lots of improvements. We've had media day today, so there's lots of talking points which we're going to get stuck into. You know, it's a really good first day, I think, for the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Yeah, a Saturday night race means everything's been brought forward today. It's Wednesday, which was media day. What were some of the big talking points with the drivers today?
I think probably the biggest talking point was just the whole scenario with the race director moving on. You know, we learned that Niels Wittich was being removed from his position. Not a lot of information from the FI about it, but they've got a new man in for this race. We've only got 3 races to go this year, which you mentioned. Wow, you know, you would have thought that they'd have waited to the end of the year to make such an important change. So, you know, lots of talking points on that. You know, drivers not really sure why the move happened. You know, it's a really big, important step that the FIA have taken, but also, importantly, without actually consulting the drivers on it. So, you know, it's a big subject for us.
I think George Russell had something to say.
Very much so, didn't he? You took the story.
Yeah. George was pretty open. You know, he's saying that you know, he doesn't understand the direction where the FIA are going. You know, some really strong words. What was it he actually said? It was
the drivers getting fed up.
It was fed up was the biggest quote. Yeah. Fed up with not being listened to. And that is a big statement. It comes after the GPDA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, released a statement pretty much pointedly at the FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, saying, you know, if you are talking about us, just, you know, we're adults, don't treat us like children. They also, you know, called on for some information on where the fines were going. And yeah, they're a little bit dissatisfied with just the way the sport is being run. And as I say, it comes at a really crucial time. You've got the Constructors Championship, which is all up for grabs. You know, McLaren leading it, but, you know, they could still be hauled in by Red Bull and Ferrari. And of course, Max Verstappen can clinch the Drivers' Championship here as well. And it's really important that you've got a race director who delivers and referees in the right way.
I think it's worth flagging as well. You mentioned there that the guys, I think Lewis and George both said the drivers are all united on this. Yeah. And when you've got, you know, they're going out here driving at 200 miles an hour, they're competing at the back end of a season for titles, yet they're so united about this point, it kind of proves that it matters, doesn't it? It matters to the drivers and the sport, really. Yeah,
I mean, they're competitive all the time, and it's very rare for all of them to be unanimous in their, you know, agreement on, yes, we all want this, you know, we want some more clarification on where we're at, and it's unheard that they're actually all together as a body. So, yeah, interesting times.
Yeah, speaking of the championship, I know you both heard from Lando this evening. What did he have to say?
He was a bit downbeat, Lando. I think he essentially, obviously, conceded the title almost, didn't he? He said, if this was a game of chess, I'm in check, essentially, didn't he? I think he knows, you know, the race is run, if you want it, for want of a better phrase, but yeah, he seemed quite downbeat. He said after Brazil was the first time he's looked at the standings and thought, you know, maybe I'm out of this, maybe it's too far, maybe it slipped away. But also, on the flip side of that, there was a positivity of what the one thing I have done this season is prove that I know I've got what it takes to win a championship. And yeah. I think he's shown at times this year that he has got that, hasn't he?
I think these next couple of races are really important because it will give us a flavour as what Lando will be like next year when he's, you know, back in the title championship. Again, hopefully, you know, be able to take the fight to Max and whoever else is quick next year. But it's up to his mental ability and how he copes with this setback, knowing that he's had the quickest car for the majority of this year. and he hasn't converted that into a world title. He may go into the winter thinking that was my one shot, because he doesn't know what's going to happen next year with Red Bull, with Mercedes, with Ferrari, and of course he's got his teammate as well, Oscar Piastri. We've seen this year that he's really competitive, and he's going to offer some tests for Lando next year. So, he may beat himself up over the winter, and it's important that he doesn't do that. Or if he does do that, then he takes it, learns from it, and then comes into next season flying. But for me, what I would personally like to see is him finish strongly and go into next year taking that momentum forward.
He's got to finish strongly in the sense that McLaren is still going for the Constructors' Championship, so he can't be sulking about it, really, can he? And also, he doesn't want to finish so many. If Max goes and wins the next 2 races plus a sprint race, he doesn't want to finish so far behind that it looks almost silly to ever have suggested he could have won the championship. You even look at Charles Leclerc. Yeah. Could even pip him to second place if something like that happens. So there is still more to play for him and McLaren at the moment, isn't there? Regardless of what happens with Max this weekend.
Correct, yeah.
Well, speaking of Max, he could be in for his 4th world title this weekend. He comes into the race 62 points ahead of Lando Norris. It means that if he wins, he will retain the world championship. There are a few other ways he could win, even if he's not on the top step of the podium. Look, I'm not a betting woman, but those are pretty...
You're in the wrong place.
I'm in the wrong place for that. But it does seem like pretty decent odds for Max.
Yeah.
How important will it be, and what will it mean for him?
I think, for me, I think this has been his most impressive championship. It's his 4th in a row. I think we had all the drama and all the controversy of 21. 22 was fairly comfortable. 23 was astonishing. He absolutely dominated. But this year he's won, but a backdrop, the backdrop full of turmoil. You've had the Christian Horner investigation. You've had the fallout of that and his relationship with his dad. The situation with Helmut Marko, if he goes, will Max go? You've got Toto Wolff flirting with him, saying, I want you to come to Mercedes. He's had all that to contend with, while also knowing that his rival, Lando Norris, has got the quickest car. Plus, you've got the FIA sending him on community service for swearing in Singapore. It felt like everything was out to disrupt his flow, yet he's managed to sort of knuckle down. He hasn't had the outbursts that we've seen in the past, and he's delivered on track. He's also delivered on track when his teammate hasn't. Yeah. So, he's done it on his own. And I think for me, that is really impressive. He's done what he was employed to do, deliver the points, and obviously now we think the title.
It's almost 2 championships he's won, because you go for, it's such a long season now. You go back to the beginning of the year. I remember going to Japan, and we spoke to Toto Wolff afterwards. Max had gone, he absolutely creamed the field, and Toto said no one will catch Max this season. He was still lightning like he was last year. You look after that, the gap's got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it just feels like now he's gone, and like you said, he's still getting the best out of a car that was letting him down, really. Yeah. For the first time in however many years, he's eats every little bit out of that he can. He scored points when he probably shouldn't have done. Brazil is obviously going to be the standout result, but there are other races where he's gone and got the best out of that car. Yeah. Finishing behind both the Ferraris, finished behind both the McLarens, I think it was in Singapore, miles behind, but doing enough to make sure he stays ahead. And fully deserving a 4 World Championships.
Yeah, and also not gone complacent as well. I think that's an important aspect. If you're winning so much, as we saw with Lewis Hamilton, during those glory years at Mercedes, he never grew complacent either. He was still coming to every race and delivering, because he knew that there'd be someone just waiting just to jump in front of him. But it takes a certain level to get up to that and maintain that focus when you're winning comfortably. Yeah. But Max has done that this year. So it's been, mighty impressive.
How about the business side of things? What would this mean for Max and for Red Bull?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think if you're just a casual observer of Formula One, I don't think you realise that the drivers don't get paid for. Formula One don't pay the driver for winning the championship. They don't get a payment. Obviously, the teams will. There'll be bonuses and things like that worked into their contracts. So Max is going to get a good payday. But for the teams, yes, the Constructors' Championship obviously matters to them. I think the drivers does to an extent. You've got the prestige of having the champion, of having potentially the number one on the front of the car. That helps massively though with sponsorships and partnerships, because the revenue that comes in when you're on the screen the most, you're the champions, it does matter to the team as well. It was worth touching, I think, on the Constructors. Ben said earlier on, McLaren leading the way, Ferrari, who I think will win it. I think they're just closing in, they're peaking at the right time. The weather, as we touched on as well here, will help them here. Yep. So they could be really close by the time that we go to Qatar. Red Bull won't want to relinquish it either. So that fight's still going on. And that one really does matter, because that's money for the teams, and that's money all the way down as well. That's We look at what happened with Alpine in Brazil, and we did a great piece on Autosport Business about what the $30 million, if they finish in the position they're in, what that means to the team, what it means to the factory, the new car, you know, the fact they're now having to buy engines. It all matters, even to where you are in the pit lane. You know, the teams want to be further up the pit lane. It's really difficult, I think, to make the point of, for the teams, the Constructors' Championship is everything. Maybe we saw that with McLaren when they wouldn't back Norris, and they were saying, look, for us, the Constructors' title matters. Piastri's put in a good performance. In a weird way, I know I just said Ferrari might win it.
I was going to pick you up on that. Ferrari, you reckon they could do it?
I just think they're peaking at the right time.
Really?
I really do. I think, in a weird way, McLaren deserve it.
Yeah.
Where they've come from the last couple of years when they were trouncing around at the back of the field.
Yeah.
They've put a great team in place. I think they've got arguably one of the best. Well, not arguably, they've got one of the best driver lineups on the grid. But I just think Ferrari are peaking at the right time. You look at the races when it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
Whether we had in Austin and in Mexico, and they were mega.
I mean, they've gone under the radar, haven't they, this championship? But I think that's, you know,
dictated by the Drivers' Championship, though, I think.
Yeah.
Because neither of them have been really in that race. I know Charles had a little bit where he was in it, but our focus is always on Max and on Lando fighting each other. So therefore, it's Red Bull versus McLaren, isn't it? So like Ferrari are just floating around over here waiting for Lewis Hamilton. But actually,
well, I was going to say, does this mean that Lewis is now in?
Has he made a perfect call on when to go to Ferrari?
Absolutely. We've seen it before, haven't we? When he obviously left McLaren to join Mercedes, we all questioned and was like, what are you doing this? You know, Mercedes aren't winning, and McLaren were at the time, but it actually proved to be a masterstroke. Could he be doing that again with Ferrari hitting the, you know, sweet point at the right time of his career?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like something else we talked about earlier was obviously the sudden departure of the FIA race director Niels Verdich.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty uncontroversial tenure, at least compared to his predecessor. But it obviously came amid reports he had a bit of a falling out with Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Look, Mark, what does this mean for the FIA's relationship with Formula One?
It's a strange one, isn't it? It's very much an argument being played out in public, being played out through the media, almost being played out through the drivers with what Ben touched on earlier on. And it is a bit of a public spat that you don't like to see. I do think FOM, for F1, if you like, are kind of on the outside of what's been going on. There's not really been much that they've done that I think has upset the drivers or the GPDA or anything like that. It is mostly the FIA that are doing these calls. Worth touching on the fact, though, that not everything is okay with liberty in F1. Greg Maffei's leaving at the end of the year, stepping down as president and CEO. You know, he was in charge when they got hold of this and turned it into and brought it here, essentially.
Yeah.
This is all he's doing. You know, he's going to leave just as they're about to get MotoGP, and could that be here? You know, who knows what the plans are for that. So him stepping away is big for that. It just brings up the stories of, is F1, are they now going to sell when it's at this level? Our understanding is that's not the case. It's just the end of his contract, and his, you know, it works for both parties to go their separate ways. But it's always Formula One, isn't it? We've got a great title fight going. We've got a constructors battle going on. We've got a race in Las Vegas. But the off-track stuff is always just as interesting, isn't it?
I think the race director change has come at the worst possible time, because this is the crunch part of the season. You know, we're talking multiple millions of pounds on the line here now, and you need a strong referee, if you like, to oversee that, to have the consistency with the decision making. You have to have a level of trust between the drivers, the teams, and the governing body, and we haven't got that. You know, and that puts everything into doubt. I mean, if we have a race here in Vegas like we did last year, where we had, you know, safety cars and, you know, potential accidents on the line, because this is a street track, a fast one at that, you know, you need a race director that's going to deliver. And so does F1, because this is a crucial race for F1, and they need it to go off well, because they want everyone to come here again and, you know, enjoy it like they should do. But if you have a difficult race, controversial decision making, then you have a huge problem on your hands.
It's also a less than ideal time given what we've been seeing happening with community service and penalties. What does it mean for the teams and for the drivers to be having a new race director coming into Vegas?
They have to build up that level of trust and an understanding. I mentioned before about, you know, knowing what warrants a penalty and, you know, what is allowed and what isn't allowed. With F1, a lot of it is subjective. You've got the rule book, but it's those grey areas and how they interpret those grey areas. There was a level of understanding because obviously the previous man had been in the job for a couple of years. So, you know, they had a vague understanding on what would be penalised and what wouldn't. They've got no idea coming into this race how strict this guy is. Is he going to penalise everything? Is he going to let stuff go? And then, of course, you've got the teams trying their luck. You know, they're going to be in his ear. You know, that's not a penalty. This is a penalty. I mean,
Christian in particular,
the radio this weekend is going to be interesting because they're going to be leaning on him to try and get some sort of steer, some sort of influence, some sort of feedback into what he's like. Because at this moment in time, they haven't even spoken to him.
Fernando mentioned it in his media briefing today, and he was saying, "Look, we have to trust the appointment. He's not new to motorsport. He's new to F1. The drivers will talk to him for the very first time at the briefing tomorrow," which is just mad when you think about it. Like, there's no relationship there whatsoever. It's almost like giving the keys to the car to someone you've never met and just letting and trusting them that they're going to bring it home safely, isn't it? Like,
biggest race of the year so far, and
F1's biggest race. It's worth saying this is F1's baby, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and now, like I say, someone in charge. I wouldn't like the pressure that he's going to feel under. And like you say, what if there's a multi-car crash on the first lap at the start? That we hope there isn't.
Yeah.
But what do you do then? What happens?
I don't think he'll be getting much sleep, will he? I mean, it's probably in the right place actually, in the
that's
time
true,
zone, and 24-hour casinos. Maybe he'll be wandering around those at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Well, he needs some good luck, doesn't he? At least.
Yes.
Look, away from the track, we've been seeing some changes, you know, an ice skating rink on top of the paddock, some new hospitality offerings. Tell me a bit about what they've got happening this year, Mark.
So, we're going to ice skating tomorrow. We've been offered the chance to go ice skating tomorrow.
Wow.
That was going to be a surprise, but I've shared that with everyone now.
Damn.
And they've even got the penguins.
Yes,
They have, that's confirmed.
superb.
That's confirmed. So we've got a bit of paddock club access tomorrow,
Nice.
which is going to be great fun. It's amazing. Like, F1 again, they've designed this to deliver on the track, but also as much as off the track. They're doing a lot more this year. There are more activations in the hotels around the area, so more people can engage with it if they haven't got tickets. There's more general admission tickets because they want to get more people in that can afford those tickets. But you look around us here, there's also that peak level. You know, there's all-inclusive tickets here. They don't do that anywhere else, where you come, you pay for your race ticket, includes your food and your drinks for the day, gives it a real festival feel. They know what they're doing. It is a tried and tested formula. There were issues here last year, which I'm sure Ben will come on to in a second. You'd like to think one of those was a 1 in a million chance that it was going to cause any issues. They really feel like that they're ready for it this year, I think. And I know it hasn't got the big, I don't know, coup de grace of being the first race here and on this circuit, but I think over the course of the weekend it could outdo last year. Whether that's on the track on Saturday night or not, I don't know, but the rest of the package I think might do.
Last year, obviously, we lengthy delays with the drain cover coming up and ripping through Carlos Sainz's Ferrari, which was disappointing. We do see it at a street track. So I think for me, the most important thing is how circuits learn from their previous year and make improvements. And that's the one thing that I've been impressed with this race, is the fact that there are improvements on track and off track. You know, no changes really to the actual surface or, to the actual logistics getting around. But in terms of added value, they're giving a lot more back to the fans and hopefully from a safety point of view that they will have learnt their lesson as well. So, fingers crossed we'll have a smooth race, exciting one at that. Last year, it was a really cracking race on the Saturday night, and I think we all enjoyed that. So, if we have the same again, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully we won't be in the media centre until 7 a.m. again
Yes.
this year. Look, Mark, this is your first Las Vegas Grand Prix.
It is.
Not your first time in Vegas, I understand.
No, I stayed here the last time I came, in fact. But this is my first time doing the Grand Prix,
Yeah, what are you looking forward to about this weekend?
It's going to be incredible, isn't it? I think, we walked from the media hotel today to the track for the media day. And it's just, the vibe of this place sometimes, it's just incredible, isn't it? Then you add in what's happening, you add in the prospect that we might be crowning a new world champion. And, we've seen these go off tonight, and it's our understanding that if Max does win it, F1 have got quite a big party planned. Where else would you want to toast a champion? Better than in a sprint racing Qatar like it was last year, like it could be this year if he doesn't do it this weekend. F1 would love it if they crowned Max Verstappen world champion here. And I think we all would, let's be honest, we all would.
Yeah, and it's, their home race, Formula One's home race, they would be the right thing for them, of course.
What does it mean for the last two races, though? What are they now, damp squibs? I suppose the constructors' time makes it a bit interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I always like the juxtaposition of this race and then Doha. Well, I keep calling Doha, but obviously Qatar Grand Prix, Doha the capital, and I think that is so different to get used to. I mean, we mentioned the cold here, the heat there, and then of course Abu Dhabi is quite a nice place to finish. Does it make it a damp squib if the Drivers' Championship is over? Yes, a little bit, but I still think that there's still so much to play for in the Teams Championship. That's where the money is that you mentioned. After all, that's where the team bonuses are.
Yep.
The teams are going to go for it right up until the last race. So it's been a great season, isn't it? Like 24 races is one heck of a lot to squeeze in, but it's every race has sort of delivered some sort of drama or controversy or talking point, and that is not going to stop for the next two races either.
And even looking ahead to next season, we've heard about programming happening at next year's Las Vegas Grand Prix with F1 Academy.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for F1 Academy. Like, they're here this year. There is an F1 Academy presence here. There's a showcase. The drivers are going to be displayed on the sphere alongside the F1 drivers. That's great. There's been activations today. There's been cars, you know. Then next year, as the announcement came on Monday, before we all headed out here, that the championship will actually end here next year. Now, we've just been talking. We've sold Vegas to people that have never been here, and we're not even getting paid by Liberty Media. But what a place to potentially end a season where you might have a championship battle. You might have, you know, these women are going to come here. They're going to drive on a track like this. You know, they do street circuits all over the world. It's not going to be new to them. But it's the occasion of it, isn't it? It's the occasion of coming here for the season-ending race. It will be absolutely mega for that as a growing sport, as a sport that is coming up alongside F1. But we did a piece on Autosport the other day talking to Susie Wolf, who said, look, we know we're developing alongside F1. They're putting a lot of finance into this, but at some point we want to be self-sufficient. So coming here and being able to showcase it to an American audience that loves women's sport, I think that's worth flagging as well.
Yeah,
they love women's sports here. It could be a great move to bring it here, especially for the last race of their season. Because obviously this year they're in Qatar and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Whereas next year, because of the changes, they won't be there. This will be the pinnacle of their year next year, and I think that's a great move.
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, can I get your predictions for who you think is going to win the race come Saturday night?
Sure. I think Max is going to win, and I think the two Ferraris will make up the rest of the podium.
I think Leclerc will win the race, but Max will get on the podium and do enough to win the championship. How about you?
I'm with Ben. I think Max is going to take it, and I think we're going to be celebrating big Saturday night.
Boring though, isn't it, that?
Look, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ben. Looking forward to a great weekend here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.